Part of the Horse Therapy Ranch. I'm sitting here in this jalopy because of what I've seen happen here at the Heart of the Horse Ranch. This started for me 3 years ago when I was invited to come out here by a parent that had two young boys in their teens, whose lives were being changed positively by their involvement with the horses, and not with just the horses, but with the people that run this program. Because the people, I call him the CEO, Guy Adams, and his wife Carrie, and who is a specialist probably in an unofficial term, but he's a specialist because he's gifted in working with people with challenges, all kinds of challenges, mentally, physically, physical challenges. That he has this adroitness and this disarming personality that everybody cottons to him, and so do the horses. And so I see Guy Adams as a man who was chosen, in a sense, I say divinely chosen for this job. And because of that, as I watched on the invitation of my friend to come out and see what was happening, because she was so impressed with what was happening to her children, so I did. I came out here and I walked around and I watched and listened, and I saw the type of clientele, I'll call them, challenged people, both children and adults. And I says to myself, you know, I'm 81 years old, and I've had a very exciting life. Many people who probably see this know who I am already. And, I was a professional baseball player, and I'll brag, I'm a Hall of Famer in Fresno State University, and I played pro ball for 6 years, and I sang with the Sons of the San Joaquin for now 25 years. And so, I've been around and I've traveled all over the world, and I've done things that are exciting and fulfilling. But did you know something? I can honestly say I have never done anything that means more to me than what I have seen happen out here, and what little part I have played in what's happening out here. I just support Heart of the Horse Therapy Ranch, and I go out and I just try to raise money, try to get donations, all kinds of donations. Makes any difference what it is. We need hay really bad because we've got a lot of horses, and that's how they live. They live on hay, and as you see, we don't have a lot of pasture. We have a lot of ground, but there's not a lot of pasture feed. So we have to have hay, and hay is very expensive. But there are a lot of generous ranchers, and by virtue of my being well connected in the valley, and people who trust me and know that if I'm involved with it, it's got to have integrity. And so that's why. By the way, that's why I became really involved with Heart of the Horse. Because what I saw was what has kept me here. When I say what I have seen, it's what I've seen happen in the lives of autistic children, Down syndrome, not just children, but adults too, Downs and autistic children and adults, and military people with post-traumatic stress. The changes that have happened here. And I'm speaking in general terms. Marriages that have been saved. Children who was afraid of their parent. Afraid. Men who came back and women who've come back from war where people were killed all around them. Their best friend was blown up right there beside them. And they come back with wounds. Mental, emotional wounds. And their lives are going in the pit, so to speak. And they got connected with Heart of the Horse. And for some strange reason, and I can't figure it out fully, naturally, what happens to these people when they get involved with a horse? And I've also discovered along the way, and I don't believe that I'm just making this up in my mind, I know the horses know that the person that's riding them is the challenged person that have an illness of some kind, post-traumatic stress, autistic person sitting on my back. One case, I'll just drop this in, of one of our challenged riders who has epileptic seizures. The horse is carrying this person. And before the person had the seizure, the horse stopped and wouldn't go. Now somebody's leading this horse, and this horse will not go. This horse is tractable. It's trained to move with just a cue. We cued the horse, did everything. The horse will not move. And just like that, that child had an epileptic seizure, which lasted for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. As soon as the seizure was over and the person was back to normal, that horse released and started walking. You know, it chokes you up when you look at this beast who, for some reason, God has given this animal a sensitivity that we can't explain. Because I know that wasn't just a happenstance. That just didn't happen. There was a reason that horse stopped, and that horse knew what it was. And so, you know, those are exciting things that happen. I'll give you another case. A little boy that's 10 years old. He's autistic. That's why I'm involved with the heart of the horse. He's autistic. He hasn't said a word since his birth, with exception of yes and no. That's all he can say. Yes and no. So his mother brings him out. She isn't real excited about what's going to happen. And for some reason, he was in the round pen. How he got in there, I don't know. You just have to accept it. He was in the round pen with the horse. And he's standing there in front of the horse, and he's petting the horse on the nose, like this. And this big brute, this horse is standing there over him, and he looks up at the horse. Then he looks at Guy Adams, who just walked into the round pen, and he said, "What kind of horse is this? Is this a quarter horse? This horse has a blue eye on one side and a brown one on the other." Well, that's a particular horse we have out here. Well, Guy didn't know that this little autistic boy who had just been brought out, he didn't know that this kid was autistic. He just knew he was brought here for therapy. And so, as the story goes, the next day, his mother or a friend came to Guy and said, "What happened out at the Heart of the Horse Ranch the other day? What happened I'll call him Kenny, I can't think of his name. What happened to Kenny?" And Guy didn't know. He said, "Well, what do you mean what happened to Kenny? All he did was talk to me about the horse and wanted to know what kind of horse it was and all this kind of stuff." She said, "He's never spoken in his life. All he's ever said is yes and no. And he's still talking." Waited for 10 years. Things happen out here. I want to tell you about Guy Adams, and I'm going to tell you about somebody else that is so crucial to our program, and it's the volunteers. I told you about Guy and how suited he is for what he's doing. By the way, he's a big man, by the way. He's 290, 300 pounds, and he ain't fat. And he's got bull-like strength, and he has a little boy's personality. He's so kind. And he can pick up any of our clients, pick them up, and he can set them on the horse. And he can take them off the horse. Anybody that can do that has got to be strong. But you know what? We have people that come out, and they walk along to be a security for the person in the saddle. Some people, we have to hold them as we go around. When they start off, you have to hold them in the saddle. And as they ride the horse, over a period of time, their core strengthens. Like one little boy, when I first saw him out here several months ago, almost a year, his head was between his knees. That's the way he lived. He was all bent over and his head was between his knees. Now he sits up. Now he can sit on the horse tall, which has taken several months for that to happen in his life. But you see, it's changed him. And without the volunteers, that's who I'm driving at, the volunteers. Generally, they're young ladies, and they come out from the colleges like Reedley and Fresno State's horse programs, and they come out here and they assist. They're all equestrians, every one of them. They know how to handle horses, and they're comfortable around them. But they have a heart for these young people and for these military people, and without them, we would be up the creek without a paddle, if you know what I mean. They are just the guts of this program. They are the rock-ribbed people that enable us to achieve what we achieve out here. The other person that really counts is the horse itself. And all of these horses, by the way, they just don't come to us as journeymen. These horses will come here, and some of them have problems. Some of them are what you would call injured themselves. And so they're rescue horses. Some of them are high-powered horses off the track, the racetrack. Horses that would have 2 years ago brought $1 million, but because now they're useless as far as the track is concerned, and they were probably given to us, I guess. Most of them were given to us. They had to be because we don't have any money. And these horses are trained day by day, using all kinds of paraphernalia to bomb-proof them, so that if somebody rolls up in a wheelchair, or if whatever, wearing bright clothing or etc., they won't spook and jump and hurt somebody. The horses are trained, and they're never used as a vehicle to transport anybody until they are thoroughly proven that they're reliable. And then we've been at it now, folks. We've been at it for 5 years, approximately 5 years. We have never had anybody hurt. We haven't even had a fingernail broken. See? That tells you about the integrity and the quality of the leadership that's out here, and the hearts of these volunteers that come out here to serve the Heart of the Horse Ranch. It's just very touching, and I feel like that I have been enriched. When Jesus was ministering in Judea, his disciples, there were 12 of them, who were following him around, and they had the impression that this man, Jesus, who could give sight to the blind, he could enable a person who never talked to talk, a paralytic to walk, just by saying, "Get up and walk." And so he had all of this power. He even raised the dead. So they were thinking to themselves, you know, when this Jesus becomes the king, we're going to kick Rome's rear end out of the front seat, and we're going to be the rulers. Jesus is going to be king. And they were all together and said, "Now, hey," John says to Peter, "You know, I'd really like to be the Secretary of State." And the other guy says, "Well, I'd like to be the Minister of the Interior." And they were all going around there talking about who was going to be the next in line, who next in power. It'd be Jesus, and who's going to be next, and who's going to be next. And Jesus heard these guys. He said, "Boys," this is the Hannah translation. He says, "Boys," he says, "when I came here, and they knew that he was born of a virgin, they knew that. They knew who he was. They had discovered that he was God's son, so there was no doubt about the fact that he was going to be the king, and boy, they were going to do Rome in." He said, "I didn't come here to be served. I came here to serve." And he says, if you want to be great, fellas, then you got to become a servant. If you're going to be top dog, you got to become the least. And he says, you see these little children? And see this paralytic? You see this deaf mute? He said, when I was in prison, you came and visited me. When I went to the hospitals, you came and you helped me out. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. And they said, huh? What are you talking about, Jesus? We never saw you in prison. We never saw you when you were naked. We never saw you when you were hungry. He said, boys, inasmuch as you have done it unto the least of these, boys, you've done it unto me. And you know, that scenario came to me when I was out here working with these young people and old people. When I was working with them, that story came to me, and I said to myself, you know what? When I do this, I'm doing it to Jesus. He said, as much as you've done it to the least of these, you've done it unto me. And so out here, when we are serving and healing and being a blessing to the least of these, let me tell you why they're the least of these. Did you know that some of these children, like a child, guy showed us a picture of him on his iPad or whatever it was. He says, this is the first time this child has ever laughed. The mother said, this is the first time this child has ever laughed. And you hear that child laughing. Oh, yeah, you know, if you're a hard-hearted turkey, you could probably pass that over and just go on about your way. But if God can touch your heart, you can realize how significant that is in life. Because some of these kids have never laughed. They don't know what it is to be happy. They don't know what it is to be excited and to be exhilarated. Think of it. I'm exhilarated all the time. I get applause everywhere I go when I'm up on the stage singing. I have people that come and want my autograph. Yeah, take that all for granted. And I get paid. I get paid for doing it. You know, and I can spend that money on things that I can, for fun. They can't. And you know what? Their mothers and their fathers, especially their mothers, because I see most of these mothers out here with their children. They're the heroes. And they have been serving, they've been serving someone else for many, many years. Like Tracy's 36 years old. Today she was writing today, and she always loves to see me come because she envisions me as her cowboy friend. And she always wants to sit up tall in the saddle when she sees me because she said today that Jack is coming. I'm going to show him how I can sit up in the saddle. And so, you know, and I think, my goodness alive, that simple reality for her it has eternal significance. And so we take all of that for granted. I take it for granted that I can walk anywhere I want to go, and even at my age, I can even hop around. I can saddle my horse. I can pick my horse's hooves. I can rope a steer. I can do anything at my age. You know, a lot of the things I can do now, I see it all in a different light now. And it's because I was introduced to the Heart of the Horse Ranch by a lady who had 2 sons. It says, Jack, have you ever heard of the Heart of the Horse Ranch? I said, no, I have. And I came out here, and I'll quit with this. I came out here, and I says to myself, you know, here's a guy, I didn't know him. He could manipulate the community. He could act like he's got a big heart. He could get donations. He could amass maybe a couple $100,000, and then he just disappears. You know that it happens. That happens. It does. Shysters, they're all over the place. And shysters work with people who have big hearts. They know who the people are who give. They know who the people are who will be generous, etc. And so I did my best to, I call it vet. I did my best to vet Guy Adams and Carrie. And you know, it didn't take me very long to be convinced. Here are 2 people who are absolutely born for this job. 2 people who have nothing but solid spiritual lives, integrity that's impeccable, and perfectly suited for what they do. And so I see the Heart of the Horse Ranch as a jewel for the San Joaquin Valley. I know there are other Heart of the Horse people that do this same thing. I don't know what they call themselves, but the name that we have is perfect. It is the Heart of the Horse that is the vortex for everything that happens in this place, plus the integrity of those who are behind it all. And I want to thank God too, because without Him we couldn't do this.